Welcome to Tech This Way.
You need an engineer, basically.
I'm too cheap for that. I mean, it's still too...
No, you can train on your voice. It's actually quite interesting.
I guess. Okay, so... Ariffin, thank you very much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so... I guess we met 5 years ago.
It's quite a while, but I know that we like steak.
That's right. And I think what interested me, obviously at that point when you were speaking, the headline was always the chief architect for Yahoo.
Yes.
Right?
Well, group architect,
Group
same thing.
architect for Yahoo.
So what happens is, as a whole, Yahoo, we have a chief architect, but in a business unit, we call them group architects. So it's the function is similar.
Okay. So then obviously for today, so this session is fairly flexible. And it really is about the person behind the person.
All right.
And you can go as far back as you want.
Wow.
And I think the interest would really be how does a guy from Perak end up in the Silicon Valley, right?
Okay. How far back do I want to go?
As far back.
Okay, so basically, let's start here, right? So I always hated school. All right? I always hated school. I got a scholarship to go...
School was where, sorry?
Say again?
School was where?
So school was in the U.S. I got a scholarship to go to the U.S. to get a computer science degree. But I always thought that school was useless. And I think in the 1980s, I came back. I met this guy. And he said, hey, at that time, I think United Engineers was the hot company, and they were doing all kinds of things. And he needed help in terms of computers, and the thing is, I guess, the one thing that we should put aside is that I've always been a techie. I built my own computers. At a time that nobody did that, right? So,
but we have to put that aside.
Well, but basically,
even though you are.
Well, no, I'm just saying that this is a given, and then this person needed help, and
right.
I thought it's a great opportunity for me to tell my parents I don't want to go to school anymore because I now have a job.
Oh, you mean this is in the middle of your course when you came back?
This was in 1980s when I was maybe 2 years into my course.
Wow.
So at that time I was going to USC, University of Southern California. Which is a great school, So basically I quit school. I started working with this guy. It was good. I think it's at that time it was called Aaron Sendermahat.
Okay.
So Aaron Sendermahat is a contractor for UE. And Aaron, is basically his wife's name backwards. Nora Aaron.
Okay.
So that was okay. But, I guess I got restless. And then also I have to tell you that, on parallel, I had some personal issues. Meaning, I was going out with this girl, typical 20-year-old story, And then my heart was broken and all of a sudden I said, life is not worth living.
Wow. You have to membawa diri lah, go off somewhere.
Membawa diri.
I see.
So I said, you know what? I don't want to work anymore. So I was just hanging out. And then I met Ramli Lemak Saleh, Datuk Ramli.
Okay.
And, in a previous life, when I was in the US, I had a really good friend who was the daughter of Emmylou Harris, who is a country singer. So I was hanging out at her house, and her father was asking me, what do you do? I said, oh, I work at McDonald's. And he goes, how much are you making? I said, minimum wage. I think that at that time maybe about $3 something or something like that. And he goes, how can you hang out with my daughter? And I said, what do you mean? That's no money at all. So they got, okay, why don't you come to this address? Let's see what we can do. Pergi-pergi nengok benda tu ialah what is a music studio.
Okay.
You know,
This is the father lah.
the father of my friend. You know,
Okay. Who actually owns the studio?
yeah. So because you know he is a music producer,
Alright.
right?
And
So
this
then-
was during your grad lah?
yeah.
During your school,
No,
during
this was
school.
in 1980s. You know,
Okay.
when I first started going to school.
Right. Okay.
And then I quit. So then, you know, I started sweeping the floor, whatever, you know. And then, you know, you have all these, you know, huge mixer surface and all that. Then, you know, I started getting bored and I said, hey, you know, teach me. You know, so then fast forward again to Malaysia, you know, quit school, met Datuk Ramli. And then, you know, we started talking, you know, became friends. At that time, there was this, dekat Life Center, there was Machine 1. I don't know if you remember.
Don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's you're too young.
After my
man.
time. Sorry, before my time.
Yeah. So, you know, we hang out and then he said, oh, you know, I'm doing this. So I started frequenting King Studio and helping them, you know.
And with your experience lah.
With
kan?
my experience,
Yep.
yeah. So then Ramli said, hey, you know, let's do this, let's do that. You know, one thing led to another. So Ramli at that time was working for Live Records. You know, so I said, you know what, let's do something together. You know, so we actually got a music company together. You know, and then we you know we had agreements with Pony Canyon, EMI, you know, Warner, you know, BMG. In fact, Warner was with Asia guy. Now I can't remember his name. I can see his face.
And this was in your early 20s lah? When you...
Early 80s.
no, your age. It was early 20s, I guess.
I would say so, yes. A bit middle lah. Middle lah.
Okay.
Nanti cakap betul-betul orang ingat kita tua.
Yeah, so in your teens lah ni.
Yeah, in the teens. You know, masa 12 tahun dulu. So then...
so you got into the music biz?
Music biz, I think we made about 5 albums together. And I also started helping Datuk Ramli in, you know, getting him to know how to do music on computers and all of that, you know. So then, fast forward, kan, 1998 happened.
The crash.
You know, yeah. In 1997, the world looked great. Everything, you nengok kan, the sun went shining, benda semua golden, kan.
Yeah, you just put anything in the stock market, it'll go up, man.
But it's not only that, but, you know, you put an album out and all that, it sells, you know.
Yeah, right.
And then, unfortunately, in 1998, you know, when the sun shine, everything looked macam tai.
Reality hits.
Reality hits, you know. So then, you know, nothing was making money. And the point here is that music and all these things are things that people spend when they have money. When they don't have money, when they're worried, you know, they conserve their money.
Yeah.
Right? So at that point, I was thinking, well, maybe it's time to move on. Right. So what I did was, and there was not much choice, right? In fact, I even tried to, you know, think about selling nasi lemak in Jakarta, for example.
Okay.
You know, and all that lah. You know, I mean, the things that an entrepreneur thinks when he is, you know, stuck in a corner.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. You got to do something.
You got to do something. Then finally, I said, you know what, it's gone. You know, it's just getting worse. You know, so what I did was I sold my house. And I said, okay, with this kind of money, you know, what I'm going to do is I bought my mother a small house supaya benda tu tak payah fikir. Then apa yang ada, I went to the US to continue my studies.
Okay.
You know, so at that time I had enough money for tuition for 1 year. You know, which is actually not much. You know, so for rent, for food and everything, I had to go out and work. So it was a tough life, you know, no kidding. You know, I was working as a dishwasher during the day in between classes. At night, I was a night watchman, you know, so that I can study. You know, because all you do is, as a night watchman, is you lock the door, you sit down and you study.
Yeah.
You know, and you're getting paid for it. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, like you do your rounds lah occasionally.
Yeah, and the fact is that not having money is a blessing. You know, because then when you get so bored, you actually study.
Right. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Right. You can't spend anyway.
So I started doing a lot of things, you know, got close to my professors and things. And a few of them said, okay, if you want to do something extra, this is what I'm working on. Because most professors are doing their own research.
Yeah.
So I did research in three things, databases, security, and networking.
Okay.
So the project that I created in networking was actually picked up by Hitachi. And then Hitachi basically funded my schooling all the way until the PhD is finished.
Nice.
And they also gave me money, macam gaji. But I needed to work for them as a subject matter expert.
Okay.
So Hitachi basically said, okay, go and do your PhD, but come and work for us.
Right.
So it just turns out that the project that I did in the first school when I was in undergrad was needed because they were participating in China's next generation network punya tender.
Okay.
Yeah. So they used that in the tender. And the way that it is like, if you want to manage a network, think about, if Malaysia, you have nodes going everywhere and everybody is looking at the internet, how do you prioritize the data that is important compared to not important? And important here is basically something that impacts a user.
Right.
For example, if you're watching YouTube, macam dia gagap, it's not a great thing, right? So this is what my invention was used for.
Right. Okay. So was this a time when the internet was already there or still early days yet?
No, the internet is there, definitely. And then, but the internet was going to the next level where people started streaming videos.
But it was still dial-up then? Still?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
you've gone past that lah.
Yeah, but one thing to note is that these days, there were maybe about 300 ISP providers, in the California area alone.
Okay.
Right? So, but now, I mean, if you look at it again, that's probably less than 5. And usually it's a telco.
Right.
In the old days, it's not like that.
Okay. How was it the old days? Why was there like 300? Is this like independent
Because
from
mom
companies?
and pops, yeah, exactly. So in order to offer you connectivity, you had to, provide the last mile. Whereas AT&T and all those people actually have a lot of fiber that connects, continents and cities. But they didn't really consider going into the last mile market.
Ah, okay. Okay.
But of course now everybody is gone.
Yeah. So then Hitachi. So you were still
then
there.
after that, in 2006, basically my contract basically ended. I graduated actually in 2009. But in PhD you have this period where we call it ABD. Okay. Meaning ABD is all but dissertation. Meaning you finish your classes, you've defended your topic, you've qualified. Let me rewind a bit. So in a PhD, you have to prove that you are worthy to be a PhD. That means that you go into a room with 5 professors and they can ask you any question, about computer science, So it's very grueling. It can last, hours, depending on what they feel you're weak in. And then the next one is the you have to qualify in terms of can you program.
Okay.
Right. So once you do with that, then you now qualify to present a topic for your research, right?
Okay.
And then when you present your topic, you will have almost the same people evaluate whether the topic is worth doing. So basically what you have to do is to tell people, you read about 1,000 papers and you say, fine, this is the summary of these papers and there's a hole here,
right,
and this is where I'm going.
So it's like a pitch basically.
It is a pitch. It is a pitch. And then at the last step, I'm fast forwarding 7 years here. Okay. Then you will defend the work that you feel is worthy to be in that space.
That you had identified 7 years ago.
Yeah. So for me, it was applying economics to networking.
Okay.
Which is exactly what I started with when I was in undergrad that Hitachi picked up. Yeah.
Okay. So
then I in 2006 I did a startup but unfortunately chablat. But I got maybe tons of a ton of money, and then we started, and then 2008 hit. So this is the second economic crisis that has affected my life.
Right.
1998, and then so then I said, well, maybe it's time to change again. So reinvent yourself, right? So I was looking at all the jobs.
You were in US still.
I was in the US, yeah. All of this is in the US, yeah. And then, I was interviewing for Amazon. I'm interviewing for Google, the usual suspects. But one of my friends said, hey, you should work at Yahoo because it's very cushy life. So that's what I did.
Right.
And initially it was cushy. So I was working in search, and usually I go to office at 10. And then 2 o'clock I'll be home.
Right.
Can do anything you want.
I'm trying to remember 2008 between Yahoo and Google. Was that like the sunset a little bit Yahoo in terms of retail or regular search versus Google's?
Okay. So at that time there was still hope.
Okay.
Google was in front, and Yahoo was either 2 or 3, depending on who you ask. But there was always still hope.
Right.
So search was a very vibrant part of Yahoo. There was probably more than 1,000, I would say maybe close to 2,000 people working on it, because search is actually quite a difficult field, right?
Yeah.
And you need to do a lot of work so that you can present people data that they feel is good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But after that, it deteriorated, because Yahoo just basically outsourced everything, and et cetera,
Right.
et cetera.
They were more focused on the B2B kind of customers, right? As opposed to Google, which was more...
Actually, it's like this.
Huh.
Search in, early 2000s is divided into two. One is word-based search, which is whatever you see at Google right now.
Yeah.
When you type in something, you get a list of things.
Results, yeah.
Right? And then you have what we call image-based search.
Okay.
So basically when you put in a line, we will bring you up, pages or snippets or something, So it's like, it's a different way to look at search, but obviously we know who won.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Word worked.
Yeah.
Right. So you were saying that Yahoo at that point was going down the path of more visual.
Yeah, they're
search.
always like that. So if you want to compare Google and Yahoo, Google is about technology related to search. Okay. In fact, Google has gone into thousands of businesses that didn't work. But because their search generates billions and billions of dollars, I mean, they even have bond traders to it because, there's just so much money. It doesn't matter. So at UC Irvine, when I was doing my PhD, there's actually Google Irvine, and they were doing something like taking the search algorithm that they're doing online and trying to do it in radio. So it's like you want to advertise, that's fine. You tell me what you want to advertise, and I give you an 800 number. Okay, so when someone calls the 800 number, you pay me. But
Okay. Because assuming then that the reason why they've called was because they've heard that radio
exactly.
blast. But I guess radio wouldn't have been so targeted compared to individual search websites.
Well, the main problem of search in terms of that side of selling and marketing is placement. So on one side, you want to place an advertisement according to the segment that the advertisement will be appealing to.
Yeah.
This is defined by the buyer. On the other side, as a seller, you want to maximize your revenue.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens in something like Google is that there's an algorithm that picks the most expensive ad for the slot, and it is instant. So basically like 0.001 second before that slot comes in, then the thing comes in. The what we call the creative and everything that you want to show is there, right?
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, radio doesn't have that kind of density. So basically, Google didn't have any comparative advantage. And also, radio was at that point in time, going downhill.
Yeah.
People were not, even
As a-
now,
as a channel,
radio
yeah.
is,
So, at that point when you said you joined Yahoo and there was still hope, what was Yahoo trying to do? Lah? What did they have on the table to say, okay, this
So
is something we
again,
can do?
I mean, comparing Yahoo and Google, number one is about how we approach search. Okay, but number two, Google concept is get the user on his way as fast as possible. Okay,
Yeah.
Yahoo get the user to stay as much as possible. So that's the it's a huge difference in characteristics, right? So Google actually doesn't have any content for you to look at.
Yeah.
All the content is somebody else's, and what they do is they give you a link, right?
Yeah.
Yahoo is opposite. Yahoo actually has tons and tons of content. For example, let's say news, right? Which we are quite a lot better in. So we have a system that actually reads all the news in the world. And we have a system that understands what the news is about. So, for example, Obama has, I'm just making this up, by the way. Obama has an auntie or a mother or whatever that lives in Arkansas. You know? And then there's a fire. And then when we see it's in Arkansas, we look up the address, and it's 2 blocks away from Obama's mother's house. So now Yahoo, what they would do is they will capitalize on that and say, for other people, I don't know, News Straits Times, whatever, they'll say, oh, there was a fire in Arkansas. Yahoo will say, fire 2 doors away from Obama's.
Right. So the stories is a lot richer because there's more dots that you can connect, right?
Yeah, it's a lot richer. So our technology in terms of content is way beyond almost anybody in the world.
Because when you said news, I in my head immediately thought about, well, there's even Google today will list you the news, but it's pretty much an aggregator. As opposed to what I say, Yahoo is actually creating the content itself based on
Well, we don't create the
info.
content, but we understand what the content is, number one. And number two, we have multiple ways on capitalizing on that data.
Right.
But of course, I have to tell you, 80% of what we do is about getting back advertisers, right?
Yeah.
So basically, if we say it's in Arkansas, and number one, we can do the hype, but secondly, we also understand that certain people will be interested in this. They will read it, and then we have to make sure what kinds of advertisements are on that page, so that they will also click the advertisement.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if Google, Yahoo, Facebook, all of these people are advertising companies.
Yes.
So it's just that Yahoo is also a content company. So if you look at the Yahoo campus, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe about 4 or 5 TV studios. Yeah. So and we actually we as in Yahoo. They actually also take personalities, and contract with them. So, for example, we have a show for morning. So you can always look at Yahoo, and in the morning there's always news about something, and somebody will present it, and those are shot in our own
Campus.
studios. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we also took some people like who were famous, like Katie Couric, and we basically just took her just for Yahoo.
Okay.
Right? People like that.
Right.
So I think if you look at it at that point where, and here we're talking about 2007, 2008, right? Nobody in the world could beat Yahoo in terms of content, right? So this is the objection that I have when people say, why did Yahoo fail? I feel that Yahoo didn't fail. I feel that it's just when you look at it from the perspective of search, it's like looking at a diamond, at the facet that has a flaw.
Mm.
And people don't actually look at the other side of the diamond, right?
Right.
Because when you look on the other side of Google, there's nothing.
Mm.
When you look on the other side of Yahoo, there's Yahoo Finance, Yahoo News, which are Yahoo Sports. Those are like huge things, right? People even now still look at them, right?
But I guess the competition is, it's always in terms of usage, lah, right?
Correct.
And I guess from that perspective, Google was there.
Yep.
I guess going back to your own time in Yahoo though.
Yep.
So when you joined, obviously you weren't group architect straight away.
Oh, of course.
So
not.
how was that journey? And in the end, what does a group
Wow.
architect in Yahoo do or does?
I look at life like a kung fu movie.
Like a kung fu movie?
Kung fu movie.
Okay.
So, you get into a fight. You kalah teruk, patah kaki, patah tangan, whatever. And then you say, oh shit, that was a bad fight, Can I say shit? Sorry.
Can.
And then then you go to the mountain and you get more knowledge. And then you go again. And you may win 1 or 2 fights. And then you lose again.
Right.
You go, So
Yeah.
it's like, what they call, I don't know, tigers in eagle shadow or whatever, So it's actually skill over skill over skill over skill over skill.
Yeah.
And then when you put it together, you are an architect.
Right.
Right. So initially, I was a very technical person. What I was doing was search. That's, I don't want to get into it. It's very techie and I'm going to bore your listeners.
No, we can get into it. It's fine. No. We have a techie audience.
So, okay. Search is about accumulating data and indexing it. That's basically all it is.
Right.
So let's say you want to do a search engine. What you have to do is, number one, to get all the data that you feel is relevant. And when you're talking about the general search,
It's
everything is
lah.
relevant.
Everything is relevant. Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, right?
Yeah.
How
So
would you know?
basically, you have huge crawlers, one. And then you also have people who are happy to give you the data. So, for example, if you go to a library or something, you say, can I get a list of all your books? They'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Right? So, after you accumulate all of this data, you have to index it. Now, the problem with indexing is that you don't know what people want. So that's also, you're basically indexing the ocean.
Yeah.
Right. So usually what we do is we create a taxonomy.
Yeah.
So we have something called the Yahoo content taxonomy. I think we have more than 20,000 headings. And then you have subheadings. You have subheadings.
Yeah.
And then we actually have to build a graph because some of these are related. So I don't know, just on top of my head, Obama is a president, but he's also a black person, and he's also used to live in Jakarta. He also, so there's not one facet to anything.
Yeah.
Everything is multifaceted. So if you can imagine this content taxonomy, it's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
And for us, it lives in memory. So that because we're always accessing it, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have to talk about current knowledge. What is current knowledge? Who is the president?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Who is the current governor? Who is it? So that is also data that we need because we need contextual data, right?
And current data evolves too, right? So
Of
from
course.
current data
Of course.
becomes historical, if you like.
Oh
and
my
then
God!
just- yeah.
The people who take care of the taxonomy is a team of highly dedicated people who are very knowledgeable about what they are trying to do, right?
So what kind of qualifications would these guys have? Is it like math degrees or com science guys? What would they? Okay, I'm trying to figure out. What kind of people work in companies like search engine
English
companies,
majors.
right? Huh?
Yeah, I think 3 of them were English majors. But they're not technical. They're not technical.
okay.
We are technical.
Right.
They are people who are trying to catalog content. So I think 1 or 2 of them used to work at libraries, very big libraries. Right?
Okay.
So
you would assume it's similar to Bing and Google too, like they would have their own taxonomy team that looks at the same things.
Bing stole, the chief search person from Yahoo. Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So definitely, you would assume that it's the same.
Literally the same people, even perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where were we?
So the taxonomy, the team.
So once you understand what you have, now you have to consider the users, right? So if you imagine you have like all kinds of moving parts on the inside, and then here comes the user. We need to show him relevant content. So in most internet places, Google, whatever, within 15 seconds of you being on the site, they already know who you are. By what you look at and what you click, we can gauge whether you are male or female, what age group you're in, and what else would interest you.
Yeah.
Based on that, right? So everything has to be contextual. When you say pizza, right? You could mean pizza recipe, pizza, you want to eat pizza, So sometimes, according to the time, if it's lunchtime, dinner time, then we assume that you want to find where to order pizza.
Yeah.
If it's not, then maybe we assume something else. I mean, this is a very, very high level example, but so now you have all of these problems put together, right? And then you have search.
So who comes in with? So obviously there's almost unlimited permutations, right? Even just talking about pizza,
Totally.
right? Of figuring out, okay, what do you mean by pizza? So over time, how does that logic get coded into the search? That if this is this combination, then this guy must be talking about he wants to order pizza because it's noon and he always eats pizza. How does that work?
Okay, search engines work like this. You have a query processor. Okay, so query processor is basically the thing that touches the user. Basically the user puts it on the website sends it to the query processor, and then below the query processor is all the content. Okay, so let's say you have content related to sports, content related to food, content related to fashion, content related to all of these are silos.
Okay,
and they are separated. So when a query comes in, they will send that same query to all of it. So let's say you have 200 different sources. Okay, then within a certain amount of time, if they don't come back, we scratch them. So let's say at 50 seconds or let's say 20 seconds, we take all of the content that came back, and then we have to decide what to show the user. So we have 20 seconds to figure out what he's interested in. Have we ever seen him before? Is his IP in our database? Is he logged in? If he is logged in the last 3 days, or what was he looking for? In the last 5 years that he's been a member, what is his general blah blah blah. So a lot of that is done while all this lower the verticals are giving you answers. And then once we get the answers, it's pulled, and there is, let's call it an answer processor.
Okay.
Right? And then the answer processor also, once it's chosen, takes advertisements. What advertisement is related to this answer and this person. So everything is contextual, right? And then you give the answer, right? Yeah. So basically, I don't know if you noticed, but I call these bottom ones verticals.
Yeah.
Right. Mainly because Yahoo also has different websites like news, sports, music, which is probably not there anymore, and then finance, right? So the thing that powers all of those are the verticals that we are providing search the answer, So from it, I guess it's a synergistic thing. You use everything for search, but because you already built it, why not build your own site? Right.
The front end tool.
Yeah.
So this query processor, right? Let's call it that. It's interesting that at that point, well, most of the time, you would feed the query processor your queries lah. Obviously now, with with everything always on and always seems to be listening to you, they are picking up your lifestyles and the words you say and things like that and processing it, even without you submitting,
Well, before this year, yes.
right? And then coming back. Oh, why do you say that?
Because Europe and California have new laws that prohibit us from using a lot of the data that we used to use.
Ah, is that right?
And also going forward, two things are happening,
Hmm.
right? One, we will go into a world where we have no more device IDs. So right now, all phones have device IDs that are non-personal. That is attached to the transmissions that they give to advertisers.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and it's unique.
It's unique.
Right.
So we can identify the phone, but we cannot identify the person.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, Siri wants to wake up. So the other thing is that in browsers, you also have the capability of getting IPs. You have to, a lot of things, right? And then you also have cookies,
Yes.
which are,
That you'll have to submit to say yes, you allow it.
yes, but it's pretty loose, until the Europe came out with a standard, where if you want to opt out, you click opt out, and all data related to you must be deleted.
Yeah.
So California did the same thing, and I expect almost everybody to do the same thing.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so that's interesting. I was not aware that, and this happened this year, you're saying, right? So
Well, California happened this
California,
year.
yeah.
Europe, I think, happened like 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah.
okay. So prior to that, so let's talk about it sounds like things are improving in terms of our own personal privacy, right?
Yes,
when we use
definitely.
these devices. But let's talk about then the dark days. So you're saying 2-3 years ago, right? All these companies are able to use all the data that they are trolling about us
Totally.
and are able
Not only that, but we can buy.
Right.
One of these, about a year and a half ago, I suggested to our tourism to use this mobile data so that we can track our tourists. Because the point here is that selling the country to tourism is the same as selling anything else. You need to know what they are.
Yeah.
So when they arrive, as soon as they come, we can track what is their mobile ID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can also buy the history of their mobile ID going back 5 years. Right. So that means as they come, between the time that they are in KLIA to KL, we can already know who they are and what they are going to do or what they are interested in.
And even without them volunteering any sort of data at all.
No, of course not. Yeah, because this data is readily available. We don't know their name. We don't know their passport number.
Yeah.
But we know the phone, right? So then what will happen is that as they go around KL, if they hang out at Pavilion, for example, we know it's a high class, tourist.
Yeah.
If they go to, I don't know, Tong Fong Hotel, I don't know. If, I just picked that out of the air, by the way.
50 ringgit a night.
Yeah, 50 ringgit, then we know that they're low class hotel. Because the job of tourism is to increase the high net worth individuals who come here and make sure that they spend money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I still think it's a great idea to do.
Yeah.
But
So now with the changing world, so now what's happened? So you're saying, so you initially stated that, okay, all mobiles have these IDs.
Yep.
So now what's happened to that? Are they going to lose these IDs now?
yes, Apple's going to stop allowing us to use the ID.
Okay.
So then what will happen? We need to rely more on learning, right? AI and stuff like that. So now instead of having a specific ID, it's going to be more generalized, right?
Okay.
So almost all technical advertising companies are working on this problem. How do we go forward?
Okay. And this is something that's, I guess, being rolled out organically, sounds like, to the world. If whoever wants to sign up to these new standards of not sharing and allowing
Okay,
data?
there's two forces at work. One, you control your own data. And
As an individual.
As an individual,
Okay, yeah.
because this is what Europe and California are doing. So if you don't want people to listen to you, you don't want people to keep your data, you can opt out, and they cannot. That's one side. On the other side, device makers, browsers, websites, they are trying to give people more privacy. So I don't know if you've heard, but for example, the American government has been calling all these companies together because they feel that those companies have too much power. Right.
Yeah. And with the Democrats, they may want to split them up, right?
Yeah, no comments, right? But all I'm saying is that because of that, they are motivating themselves to actually do these things.
Right.
So these two forces are going to change digital advertising forever. So going forward, most probably only the companies that have their own secret sauce in advertising will survive.
Wow, that's it. So if you think about the fact that Facebook and Google, right, driven pretty much by advertising, so
But I don't think those people will suffer, mainly because they have a lot of logins.
right. So these are people who would have already volunteered their
Yes, and
allowed their
also
data, right?
through the logins, they can identify people and attach to them whatever they want, right?
Right.
But if you're looking at people who don't have much, right, that's a tough one, right?
But for Apple, I guess we can talk about Apple in a minute. But for Android users, I log in to my Android phone with my ID.
Yeah.
So irrespective of whether it has the mobile ID or not, Google knows that.
No. The Google and Apple are not going to suffer, but they will not transmit the device ID anymore.
Okay.
So it's not the big guys. The big guys are not losing anything. It's the small guys. For example, I know this company in Singapore. Well, actually, they started off in Bangalore, and now they're in Singapore. That what they do is they accumulate data for app use. So that people can target. Let's say you download Tetris or something, then something like Tetris can target you again, right? Yeah, something like that.
Right.
So those people are, they would have to find a different way to do what they do. Yeah.
But which means, back to your point, so the Apples and the Googles of the world, well, same old, and the Facebooks of the world, they still have access to
because they are the originators, right? So we are the consumers. The companies, digital advertising companies are the consumers of that.
So if we roll forward, right? So you're saying there are these two forces. One, there is users like you and me who want the privacy.
Yeah.
And that, if I was to go and get onto a service that doesn't give me the option to protect my privacy, then I won't use that service. Right? So that's on one hand.
Sure.
And the other is the service providers themselves or the hardware makers and all that, right?
Yep.
Knowing that, hey, you know what, there is this user demand for more privacy, therefore they will have to embed that in their service. So, but, right?
Well, for like right now, you have a cookie, in a browser. So every time you visit my website, I can write something to your browser on a cookie. The next time you come, I can read that cookie back. Okay.
Yeah.
Going forward, we may lose that capability. Right.
So where I was going to was, but what if, even within these two forces, as a user, I don't really have much choice. Or do I? In terms of, well, here's a service that I really want. Yeah. But it doesn't give me my privacy protection. No. I'll just have to give up. And anyway.
According to the European and the California laws that come, you either do it or you don't do business there.
Oh, as a service provider? Okay. I see.
So you don't have a choice. As a company, you don't have a choice.
So now, it does come back to regulators to control
They did,
this, right?
And we expect every state in the US to follow the same. And we expect the whole world to follow the same. In terms of, if you don't want people to store your data, you can opt out and you can tell them to erase all your data, from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess the question is, whether they do it or not, that's a different story altogether.
No, they have to do it. There is going to be an audit.
Right.
And if you don't do it, most probably, you are in deep doo-doo. Right? Yeah.
So how far is our own MCMC in this, do you think?
I actually don't know. Acuro, what we do it mostly in the US, right? So I have had maybe a few contracts in Asia,
Right.
but my plan is basically this is a setup for maybe 3 years down the road where I'll fully come home, you
Right.
know. But
Okay.
so the first project that we've suggested is through our sister company Saridata to tourism, but maybe it was too advanced. I don't know. It did not get traction. People loved it, but they probably didn't. They couldn't evaluate the worth. So
Yeah,
let's say we
to do that.
spend let's say X million dollars in advertising in Malaysia, right? So let's spend Y dollars in making sure we understand, the effect of that advertisement. To me, is well worth it. Mainly because you're going from shotgun to directed advertising.
Yeah.
And actually, in the internet, everything is directed, right? So this model, I don't know. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to introduce something new. Right? It's not just Malaysia.
Right. Actually, then let's go back to Yahoo, right?
Sure.
So back to your role as the architect,
Yeah.
group architect. What was that like? What did you do?
What did I do? Okay, first of all, Search has about 1,500 people. Okay, and that's small because we shrunk maybe from 4,000 to 1,005 people. Yeah. So each business unit is headed by a senior VP. Okay. Each senior VP has a chief architect. So of course he also has a VP of product, blah blah blah. His whole lineup, right? But we are basically supporting the SVP in his revenue target. So we all have P&L.
Okay.
Right. So basically, if you make the revenue target, you make your bonus. If not, you don't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's incentive there.
That's incentive there. Yeah. So what we do is we make sure that what we do makes money. And that's basically the function of the top level that I was in, right? So how we do this is, through three things, right? Structure, meaning the people and the roles, everywhere. Process, basically how do we use these people to do something, and digital foundation, which is basically where we do it on.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of structure, we have a standard. I mean, most companies have the same, I'm sure. You have the SVP, the VP, the managers, and then the workers, right? And then in terms of roles, we have usually business development. Okay, let me explain. Business development looks at markets in two ways. One, you're looking for categories, so it's like what category of business is underrepresented, for example. Secondly, you're looking at segments. Which kinds of people are underrepresented? So for example, you look at games and you say, oh my God, there's no Chongkak game.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then you look at segments and you say, oh, you know what? Between the ages of 7 and 14, girls who likes the color yellow are not represented, underrepresented.
Okay.
Then you give this information to the product manager. The product manager's role is basically how to create a product.
Okay. Right.
So they can take all this information and put it together and create a new product. And that's what I call a disruption, disruptive product. Or they can talk about, okay, we already have this product, but let's make this line green instead of red.
But from a Yahoo context, what is a product?
A product is a website, basically. Finance is a product, but a product is anything that as revenue potential. How about that? Because we also did things for watchmakers where you can put Yahoo content on a watch.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
We deal with third parties, and we say, okay, fine, what do you want? We can host your website, So anything that can generate revenue is a product, right?
Right. Right.
So I was saying the product manager will, he can choose to either create a new product, which is disruptive, or he can improve a current product, and that's basically his job, right? So that's two roles, right? Business development and product. And the third one is delivery managers, which is some people call them project managers. Project managers are basically people who make sure that something is finished at a certain amount of time. Okay, so they're the people who carry the whip, or they have to do and then we have the architects. The architects primarily when the product people say, hey, I want to create a website, but I want the website to be 3D. Okay. The architects want to say, okay, you're dreaming, man.
Right.
Or, yes, we can do it. So in the primary function of an architect is to validate an idea, right? And then you have the marketing, and then you have the creatives, et cetera, right? So the architect. Okay, let's go into the process side, because I just talked about structure, right?
Yeah.
So process, usually what happens is you have the CEO say something like, hey, I think we should get into mobile. I don't know. Or maybe I think we should get into 3D. It's fine. Anything. And then she goes to each business unit and says, okay, fine. For this year, this is your budget, and this is how much I want you to make. Okay? So typically in Yahoo search, we get cheapwood budget, maybe about 300-400 million, maybe.
Okay, that's nice though.
But we are supposed to generate 1.4 billion every quarter. Okay.
Okay.
And unfortunately, our systems, the search or whatever, will generally generate less.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So basically, the process is about how do we pick products to work on so that we can generate money to fulfill the goal, right? And then the digital foundation is basically the platforms that we build. So we build platforms that can be reused so that whatever, the new product comes in, we don't need to do 100% of the work. We do maybe 40%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's basically how we work.
Okay. I just wanted to jump a little bit in terms of talent when you were there. Right?
Sure.
Specifically Yahoo, but I guess you can also jump across to the others the other tech companies that you've seen. Obviously, the driving factor for a lot of these companies is the talent, right?
Of course.
How do you attract the right talent? Then how do you retain them?
You have to make your place of work a place that everybody likes, right? So that's why if you go to what do you call Silicon Valley, the superficial thing that you see first is the free food. Campuses that are very comfortable. They make it seem like school campuses. So that people feel comfortable, right? There's a lot of perks. You have swimming pools. You have whatever you want. You have massages. Whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
And all of those are superficial, right? But the things that you don't see are managers that are extremely well picked, and the way that managers work in the US is they don't tell you what to do. Okay, that's not the function of a manager. If you're going to hire good people, you shouldn't tell them what to do. You should ask them, what do you want to do? Now that you've seen our problems, what are you going to do?
Right.
So this is something that I feel is lacking in Asia in general. I was in Indonesia, I was talking to the Bluebird people, and I sensed that there was a distinct sense of hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. There is that power distance, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the
So
thing.
in the US, a manager is someone who helps get you unblocked. What does that mean? It means that, on a one-to-one, and I have one-to-ones with my people every week, right? And I say, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Tell me what great thing you're doing this week, And he says, and then I say, okay, fine, that's great. What's blocking you, And then he says, well, I'm dealing with this other team, and they don't seem to be very responsive, So that is my job. That's the job of the manager, to unblock. So then he will liaise with the other team's manager and say, hey, what's going on, man? And then, it turns out maybe there's some issue, or it turns out that he didn't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the role of the manager is not to tell your worker what to do. If you tell your worker what to do, you probably have the wrong worker, and you probably have the wrong manager. So, I mean, and that's the thing that I'm trying to tell you, that is unseen. It makes me feel good to work like that. So I applied for the job. I want to do the job. Allow me to do what I'm capable of. And also, in the US, a lot of companies allow you to learn things.
Yeah.
And in Asia, there's an insurance company, I think in Thailand or something. All they do is outsource. And I'm thinking, okay, but then what is really bringing you forward, right? And that's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
So you have to allow, like Google has this 20% project rule, right? Where you only work for 80%, and 20% you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
At Yahoo, what we have is a business plan competition.
Okay.
So every quarter, the CEO has a business plan competition. If you, if your business plan gets done, you get a percentage of revenue, not profit, in like 3 years. The people that I know who have won, nobody has gotten less than $1 million.
Oh. Do they have to drive the business plan itself, or is it just to submit the business plan?
Just submit the business plan. So then, if the business plan is accepted, then you get the 20% time to do it. With the people that they staff with,
To do
Yeah.
actually do it lah,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the 100%. Okay.
So a lot of okay, I guess I want to give you another example. It's like, let's say one of my people goes beyond. This week something went down, like Google went down yesterday, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then he's the guy that drove the effort to solve it.
Okay.
Immediately, I can give him an instant bonus. Of I think it's between $50 to $500 US. And sometimes what I do, as a leader, I use the bonus money that I'm paid from Yahoo to buy drinks, to buy whatever, so that on every Friday at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I will assemble all the teams, and say, hey, drinks are on me, or ice cream.
Yeah.
And we just encourage, but the thing is, I always look at my bonus money as not all mine. Right. And so I will also buy, like, let's say, movie tickets. And whenever someone is doing great, you say, hey, these are 2 tickets. Go see a movie. And it's not, like $50, 2 movie tickets. It's not much. But showing people you appreciate them is a lot.
Yeah.
So it's an entirely different concept. Over here, and in Asia, I mean in general, right?
Yeah.
We expect people to be kadam, and kulibata, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
You're alienating your workers.
Yeah.
You're making them dumb.
We've already spent so much time trying to find the best people, and then once you're in, okay, you do 1, 2, 3.
And also, you tend to see managers or leaders, in general, are the ones who stay up late. And they conserve their workers, and they protect the workers as much as they can.
You're saying here or over there?
In the US. So I protect my worker. My worker is doing a project and it fails. I protect him. I have to go to the VP, to the CEO and say, hey, you know what? It's me. I did it. I'm wrong. So it's a totally different thing. Over here, even when the manager is wrong, they'll blame the worker.
Yeah, CYA lah. Yeah.
So I mean, and the what you get, the bottom line from this, number one, if you practice these things, you personally become a talent magnet. I recently started a small thing, right? And I realized that I have about, I don't know, a few thousand people to pick from because everybody wants to work with me. And once people work with me, they always want to work with me again. Because of all these things. I value them. I let them handle it the way they want to. Of course we discuss, right? And I always protect them, right? So those are things that I feel Asians in general can learn. Because our concept is totally different. I pay you, you do what I want you to do.
What about the resources that are not performing?
So my concept, I really like up or out. Up or out is usually practiced by consulting firms. For example, Accenture, or actually, I don't know about Accenture much. Arthur Andersen.
I was from Accenture, but yeah.
Arthur Andersen, they fire 10% of their staff every quarter or every year, right? And I support that, and I generally try to do that a lot. Mainly because, number one, there's a large pool out there. I always say, even before I was an architect, when I was a principal engineer, every time I see a principal engineer opening, there's thousands of people who apply. So you better understand that, your job is only yours if you really want it. And if you want it, show that you want it. Right? So, I feel that you should definitely, have a lot of, what do you call? Churn. Because churn helps the company. So if someone is not performing, definitely give them a warning. Or maybe better still, understand the situation. If it is a personal problem, give them a break. Tell okay, fine. Go settle this, and come back fresh. Right? If it is a knowledge problem, give them time to learn. But if it's simply what do you call that? Laziness or something, then it's a problem, right? Yeah. So I mean, I had this one engineer. Oh my God! Under Yahoo Maps. I don't know how much I can say. So, but basically, he was a brilliant engineer, but he had a lot of bad habits. And I was tolerant of the bad habits. But one day, he asserted his bad habit on my SVP.
Okay. And,
that wasn't, it was not beyond, it's beyond my control. There's nothing I can do. Because benda tu nyata.
Yeah.
And he was out. But I would have loved to keep him, because of, everybody has their own idiosyncrasies. Maybe setengah orang, dia pergi office, dia suka buka sepatu. It smells. But he's a brilliant engineer. Yeah. Then I'm going to keep him, but I'm going to keep him somewhere where he can do whatever he wants to do. Yeah. Jauh-jauh sikit, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think leadership is you have to decide, is the power important to you or is the productivity important to you? Because I feel that if productivity is important to you, then you need to rethink. What is a leader?
So on the flip side, there are obviously people in the organization who's really good, right? Or these are the stars. What do you do with them?
Wow, you have to advance them, right? If you don't advance them, if you don't give them salary increases, etc., stock options,
So that's common, pretty much practice over there, lah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I shower my best people with whatever I can give, right? You know,
Okay.
and I'm talking about shower, you know.
Right.
I mean, I typically, well, my SVP typically gives about 100,000 worth of shares every year, you know, to one person,
Wow.
you know. So,
And all of it seems like, you know, these individuals, I mean, the leaders are empowered to, you know,
yeah,
they're
totally.
given a pool to just.
Well, no,
Yeah.
they have a pool. You're right. But the pool is either big or small depending on revenue,
Sure.
you know, and that's fair. So if the pool is big, then more people get it, or, you know, people get more, you know. But every Christmas, right, my SVP would give 5 bottles of wine, of the best wine, you know, to his staff, his direct staff. You know?
Wow.
So, and you, I know that's not in his budget, because, you know, we don't buy alcohol for, you know, for people, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's definitely coming out of his own money, and it's coming out of his own pocket.
But there is that culture, right? This culture of individuals recognizing,
Yeah,
you know, the
totally.
performers, and then, or, you know, some we are formal and you can reward them. Wow. Okay. So coming back to your time at Yahoo, so what happened after?
What happened after?
How long were you there for?
Almost 10 years.
Okay.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you about after. We got sold to Verizon. I got a small parachute, you know, and then with that parachute, you know, I basically took a year and a half off, and I said, you know, tepuk dada tanya selera, you know, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So I was thinking I'd open something in Asia, you know, or at least I'll start something in Asia.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, you know. Yeah.
So now you're back here, or not yet, but.
Well, it's 50-50, basically. You know, so what happened was, you know, when you're starting something, things go slow. You know, people have to know you. People have to understand your integrity, your standard of work, etc., you know.
Yeah.
And also, you have to think about how to scale. You know, so while I'm thinking about how to scale, I'm writing a book, for example. You know,
Okay.
And I have to get sources of income.
Yeah.
You know, so I have contracts overseas that are more lucrative. So I have to do them while I am growing in Malaysia and in Asia in general. Right? Yeah.
So what kind of business are you planning to do over here anyway? That's relevant here.
Well, I have 2 things that I'm trying to do now. You know, actually we started about 2.5 years ago. You know, one is Accuro. So Accuro is a strategy consulting firm. What we do is we specialize in revenue generation systems.
Okay.
You know, so we deal with mostly insurance companies. I have an insurance company in Thailand that it's not our policy to say the name of the company.
Sure.
Yeah? I have a bank in Malaysia. They are trying to be a top 5 bank. Right? I have a telco in Singapore that I brought from just Singapore to international. They are now in Australia, Taiwan, and Indonesia. You know, because they said they are number 3 telco.
Yeah.
And they were saying, I'll shower you with money if you can make me a number 2 telco. And I was thinking, dude, why do you want to be a number 2 telco? You know, Singapore has 5 million people. You know, even if you're number 1, there's really not much money. You know, I said, let me redirect you. You know, you see this world? There's tons of money, you know, here. You know. So you know, that's what we did. You know, and we spent 1.5 years doing it. The base systems, you know, how they do the revenue generation systems. And then now they're up. Like I said, they're already live in Australia, Taiwan, and Indonesia, and they're happy. Yeah, they're still number 3.
Yeah. But at least the
In
potential is a
Singapore.
lot bigger.
But I have a feeling they're actually making more money than number 1 right now. You know?
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things that we do,
Right.
What I understand all facets of tech, right? So because I started from the very bottom, I went to the very top where I'm talking about how to make money.
Mm.
You know, and I always feel that if you are talking to a technology person and the person is only talking about technology, you have the wrong guy.
Mm.
You know, because we have to talk about revenue. We have to talk about profit, bottom line, and perpetuating the system that makes that money.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, and the reason why I want to talk about a telco is because this is a perfect example.
Mm.
So you do something, I don't care what it is. So you do it in Singapore, and you're number 3.
Mm.
Okay, can you or can you not put this system together in such a way that is portable? You know, and then now, you know, you can scale to other places using the same thing.
Mm.
See?
Yep.
So a lot of our banks, or you know, or financial institutions, or almost any businesses in Malaysia, they are stuck to the ground. You know, they're basically saying, okay, covering more territory is better. If I have 2,000 branches, I'm going to make more money.
Mm.
That may have been true in the 90s or the 80s, but we're coming to a point where you can have a branch in everybody's home.
Mm.
You know, and that real estate is really just weighing you down.
Yeah.
You know, what you really need to do is to cut your staff, keep the people who are key, and go to the next level.
Mm.
You know, and that's what I'm doing with the bank that I'm working with in Malaysia.
Mm.
Right. So I guess is, you know, in a way, it's a different way of looking at something.
Mm.
You know, and trying to capitalize on things that you take for granted.
Mm.
You know, so I'll give you an example, right? At Yahoo, Yahoo search, right? We do mainly search, but a lot of content. For example, Yahoo Shopping, which is now defunct, used to belong to Yahoo search, right?
Okay.
Mainly because Yahoo Shopping is mostly about search,
Mm.
and very, you know, like it's 10% website, 90% search, right?
Mm.
So what we do, you know, I was telling you that most of the time we have revenue shortfalls every quarter, you know. So what we do is go out and knock on doors,
Mm.
and we say, hey, what are you guys doing this quarter? How can we help?
Mm.
And then he'll say something, well, we're trying to promote this thing. And say, okay, fine. I can do this for you, you know.
Yeah.
And then we are basically getting money for nothing and our chicks for free.
Yeah.
You know, so basically whatever we already have, we are reusing
Yeah. Yeah.
to just get more revenue from what it is. You know.
Mm.
So all of these concepts are inaccurate. You know, and for example, I was talking to you about structure, process, and digital foundation. That is a key concept in how we deal with clients at Accuro.
Okay. Okay.
So Sari Data is a different thing. Sari Data is more applied. So Sari Data, if you think about Sari,
Sounds very Indonesian.
no, Sari is like pati, right?
Ah.
You know, so if you take a coconut and you take the milk, santan is a sari.
Okay.
When you say Sari Data, we're talking about you have tons of data. We try to give you the meaning.
Right.
You know, and that was the company that was suggesting the harvesting of data for tourism. You know,
That you propose. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, I realized that I'm a beginner. I don't know how to handle Malaysian structures.
Yeah.
You know, so
The politics of the people here, I guess, and how to
sure,
address them.
you can say that, but to me, it's always my fault. Oh, that's also one thing. You know, it's like in the US, at least for me, my leaders and me, if something was wrong, it's our fault. It's not my workers' fault. You know, no matter what, the buck stops with me. So fine, Sari Data did this, we failed. It's my fault. You know, it's not the politics. It's not whatever. If it is the politics, it's because I didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so this allows me to learn as opposed to feel good about complaining. Right? So I'm learning. You know, I met a few people and they've been educating me on what to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's tedious, right? It's a bit tedious. You know, I wish there was a way that I could talk to the right people at the right time and give them the solution.
Yeah.
Because it's not the solution that's the problem. It's the methodology of getting the solution to the right people. Right.
True. Oh, sorry, it's already over an hour.
Wow.
But let me just to finish it off a little bit, so what are your plans now? So you're saying that you are based in the US and you do come back ever so often.
Well, it's about
So,
50-50.
50-50.
Usually what happens is I spend about 3 to 4 months here and then the rest in the US.
Okay.
Right. And I'm hoping to skew it in different ways, But of course, there's complications. I'm actually I'm a kidney dialysis patient, so traveling is a hassle, right?
Yeah.
But I have to take care of myself, right? So all of this put together is it's working out. I mean, my plan is that I can generate enough revenue in Asia that I don't need all these other clients because I prefer to be here.
Right.
And the main reason is that, I've talked to all kinds of people, McKinsey, Booz, all of these people. And they say, the only people that we have like you are in Hong Kong and beyond. So that means in Southeast Asia, there's a dearth, there's a need, the hunger untuk, talent to help people.
Right.
It's just that, nobody knows us. So we'll go slow. Unfortunately, one of our tenets is that we as a boutique firm don't want to publicize the companies that come with us. So I can tell you it's the third largest.
Telco.
In Malaysia, I can tell you it's what do you call that? It's like a Goldman Sachs bank as opposed to a Maybank bank.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good policy, but it's also hindering me. Because we don't get to put all the logos of the companies that we've worked for.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh well. But all the best.
Yeah. Thank you.
To setting up and establishing yourself here. I mean, you obviously bring a lot of fascinating experience from being over there, and hopefully you can help some of the companies over here navigate the things that potentially they will face that you've already faced with other companies there.
Sure, definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. We'll catch up again sometime.
Steak, but not now.
Yeah, not today. Okay, Ariffin. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much,
All right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.